Forward this to your single friends. Today, we're talking about 9 red flags to look for when looking for a spouse. Let's jump in.
Welcome to the Family Goals Podcast. We're Graham and Shay Cochran, and we believe that your family can do things differently. The payoffs are worth it, and the little things can have a huge impact. All right, this is going to be a good one. I'm excited about this. If you're single, this is for you. If you're really serious in a relationship, this is for you if you're about to go to the next level. And if you know anyone who's single or who's dating or who's engaged, depends on how
spam all your single friends.
How rocky the relationship is. This might make some people angry, but it might help a lot of people.
Listen, the divorce rate is insane right now. I'm just saying we're just trying to do our part to help our brothers and sisters out that are still shopping for a spouse.
Yeah.
You get to choose your spouse in America.
Now's the time. Yeah, in America. So before you get married is the time to choose the spouse wisely.
So we just want to help you choose well. And not everybody had a great home environment, had this taught to them. Most of us are just trying to figure it out as we go. Yeah. So we're just trying to do our part here to bring down the divorce statistic and help you guys out with red flags.
Right. Can we just pause real quick? If you were about to buy a car, wouldn't you read consumer reports and ask a bunch of people, what do you think about this car? I know this car looks good. I know this car has great ads. I know this car actually does well for the first couple of years. But
you said this car has great abs.
This car has an 8-pack. But after a few years, what's the reality of living with this car? Now, that would be amazing if there were consumer reports for an actual person. But my point is how much freaking research do we do for a car that's going to fall apart in 5 years anyway?
Well, and it's interesting that you mentioned, we get people's feedback. What do you think? Is this a smart car? What's the resale value?
Yeah.
But I don't know that we elicit the same opinions from other people about who we should marry. What do you think of this guy? What do you think about this lady? I hope people do that.
I hope so.
But I don't know. It's a little taboo. We tend to just be this is my decision. No one's going to understand.
It's
just going to be me.
the most important decision you make in your life. And it's the one.
Yes, literally.
It's literally the most important one you make. And it's the one that people don't want any counsel on.
Yeah.
And there's probably a huge, we could probably do a whole episode on that, but there's probably a lot of pride there. Maybe this is what is wanting to come up as a preface is, man, what would you want more to be right in the moment now and no one speak ill
and no one say what you don't want to hear.
But then have a lifetime of pain or have a moment of pain now when someone says, I don't know about that person. And you're well, screw you. But then you're well, I'm glad I didn't marry that person and have a lifetime of joy. So, it's
those are your options.
Those are your 2 options, folks. Okay, that made sense in my mind. So
yeah, I like it.
Let's get into
true.
it. You want to kick us off?
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump in with number 1. Number 1 is red flag. They don't respect authority. And this means whatever kind of authority is currently in their life. Bosses, police officers, anybody that's in authority, in a position of authority in their life. How do they respond to that authority? If it is the type of person, male or female, that is constantly undermining authority, seems to believe that they're the exception to authority, just not respectful of authority. It's a huge red flag about their character, about their humility, about their ability to change. There's just a lot that goes into it. But if they're not respectful of the authority in their life in its various forms, red flag. On the other side, what you're going to look for is somebody who does respect authority. They respect the authority of their state, of the government, of their boss, of their, any positions of authority around them, their parents, their mother and father, people of authority in their life. Look for somebody who respects authority consistently.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned parents because there's almost swap out the word authority for people that you should honor or people who are worthy of honor and how you speak about your parents says a lot about you as a person, especially if we're a grown adult. I don't sit under the authority of my parents anymore, but the Bible calls you to honor your father and mother, and that never ends. That's an ongoing thing. So if you don't honor people that deserve honor, and everyone ultimately deserves honor, that tells you something.
Honor people that don't deserve honor, right? Because there's a whole nother layer to that. Can they respect someone who maybe doesn't deserve their respect, but they can still treat them with honor and respect.
Or speak well of them.
Speak well of them, even if, I'm just thinking of parental situations where they've been done wrong by a
tracking.
parent, you know?
That makes sense.
Are they able to still speak with respect and honor to the people in authority in their lives?
Dude, love it. All right, number 2, this is on the flip side. Other people don't respect them. That's a red flag. If other people don't respect this person, you got to at least have a conversation.
Yeah. Hear them out.
Because there's this weird thing that happens with, this actually happens also in the shopping metaphor too. Like when you kind of know what you want, you kind of look for the data that supports the purchase you want to make.
You don't want to hear anybody tell you that it's not a good
Exactly.
decision.
So it's like when you're looking for reviews of that product, but you're only looking for good reviews because you already decided you're going to buy it.
Yeah.
That happens with relationships too, for sure. And so it's like, hey, I know this person. Don't tell me. It doesn't really matter what other people think of them. I know the real him or I know the real her. And I understand that like there is something to the people that know me the best should respect me the most versus the outside opinions, that there's something there. But if the general population
don't like them,
do not like or respect them, if they have a reputation that precedes them in a negative way, it may not be the end of the world. It may not be a deal breaker, but it is a red flag that you got to take seriously and find out, like, is it like a past reputation? And like, sure, people change. People have complete 180s and they have a bad reputation.
Sure.
And it's going to take years to rebuild that trust with those people. And you might be meeting them on the other side of it, but you'd want to at least ask about it.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Can you talk about it and be honest and vulnerable? And if they are secure, they can say, hey, I had a past. This was me in the past. I'm changed. I'm working on it. You know,
if nothing else, do the people that you respect in your life respect that person? If they don't, then there's probably a red flag, and we tend to be in denial of those things. But if other people don't like them, there's probably a reason, or her.
And this is hard if you're on the other side, if you're the friend of someone who's dating someone like this and considering marrying someone like this, where you don't really respect them. You love your friend, but you don't respect their choice of a partner. If you're really their friend, there is an impetus to want to at least have the conversation of like, hey, like you are a grown woman, you're a grown man, like
do whatever
you want. And I just love you. I could be misseeing something, but here's like what I see. And I would be remiss if I didn't say something about it. And like you do with it what you will.
Right.
But like if you really are a friend, you wouldn't just be like, I'll keep my mouth shut. Like that's not friendship.
Yeah, let's love each other well by being able to be honest. So on the flip side of that, look for somebody that other people respect. Pretty plain and simple. If they are someone who's respected by the men and women around them, they are probably a respect-worthy person. That's the type of person you want to be married to long term. All right, number 3.
Yeah.
Number 3 would be they don't respect your boundaries. And this can go for any type of boundaries. This could go for physical boundaries that you set. This could go for boundaries around like how much time you're going to spend together, or you wanting free time to go spend with your friends, or please don't call me out while I'm at work. Whatever the boundary is, they need to be the type of person that respects your boundaries. If they do not respect your boundaries, whatever those boundaries are, that is a red flag.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else to say about this.
That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, the flip side is have conversations about boundaries, which sounds weird, especially if you're like in a really healthy relationship and everything is good so far. Even healthy relationships thrive on boundaries. So it's important, like to, let's say you're really lovey-dovey and it's early on and you're just like, everyone's deferring. No,
you said
what
it's
do
really
you
early
want?
on, AKA not 18 years into marriage.
You said that. You just jumped to some conclusions.
Subtext.
But like, when it's like when you're blinded by love.
Back in the day when we...
And it's like, where do you want to eat? No, where do you want to eat? What do you want to do? And everyone's deferring in the early years. It's really helpful and important even then to say like, hey, I know like we're cool with whatever, but like for me to be fully healthy in myself, I need to make sure I have time for this or this or this. So like I can't always be available. So I think it's even good before there's a problem to set like, hey, I like to exercise, or I like to see my family a certain amount of time. And those things you might have to talk about, like, wow, you like to see your family like every night. Like when are we gonna see, like by your family and your parents? But boundaries, we all have them if they're unspoken. So if you're going from single to like coming together, it's good to bring them up and see how the other person reacts to them. And they should at least respect them. And
you could almost go a step forward. Like, do they respect your boundaries, and then do they support your boundaries? That can be important as well. If, say, I have a boundary, like I'm really trying to not drink, or I'm really trying to clean up my eating. Like
Yeah.
I'm really trying to not hang out with these types of people. Or I'm really trying to not go to the bars or something like that.
Do they
Like
come alongside?
not just do they respect them, but do they like come alongside to support those
That's
boundaries?
good.
So
All right, so red flag number 4 is how they handle feedback or criticism.
This is huge.
Yeah, so all of us are naturally defensive to some degree because nobody likes to be told that there's like some room for improvement. Some people have thicker skin or are more used to that kind of like personal development and they're like open to it.
Yeah.
Or they're like hungry for it. Like, all right, give me the feedback. My experience is that most people aren't there yet, especially not early on in life. And so there's some grace here for sure. Like defensiveness is one of my issues. Like literally I was working with a coach, a mindset coach, and one of his big things is alter egos.
Mm-hmm.
And so like we would give names to different parts of our personality.
Do you have like a defensive Dan or something?
That was my
Was that the name?
yeah, defensive Dan. And he's like, hey, let's give it a name so when you see yourself being defensive, you're like, hey, it's defensive Dan because
Dan,
it
hush up.
sounds really stupid and comical, but it calls out this isn't who I am, but it's a part of who I am, and it's a struggle. So let me call it out. I struggle with defensiveness because I have an insecurity if I'm not enough, not doing enough. And so anytime someone says, hey, I wouldn't have done it that way, it like triggers that I'm not enough, I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
There is some natural tendencies for some people to be like that. But if they can't handle any feedback, if they can't handle any like suggestions,
Constructive criticism.
Now, if you're a very critical person,
This is not an excuse that they need to just absorb your criticism.
no, because that is one of the
We
most
mean
damaging things in
meaningful-
relationships. But if you're like,
meaningful
hey,
feedback.
I really would appreciate it next time if you did this, or this.
Like how you used to curse like a sailor when I met you.
Are
And
we
then
really, are we really doing this, babe? Are we going there? We're going to edit this out. That didn't happen. What are you talking about?
And then we had a little conversation about
We did. You
about
pulled out
that
a Bible
and-
verse.
And you were like, you know what? I don't want to be that type of person who's cursing like
Yeah.
a sailor.
I actually handled that pretty
Yeah,
well,
you
actually.
really did. You were really,
Yeah,
you were.
'cause I knew
super
I had a
helpful.
problem. I was like, yeah, you're right. This is a problem. Oh my gosh.
Anyway,
Yep.
we
Thanks
digress.
for that. We've recorded for all time now.
But
I've come a long way, folks.
But I do think that this is important because I think at times, especially if you've grown up in a Christian context,
Mhm.
there can be very, 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 very high standards about what your spouse needs to be or look like when you marry them. Like, AKA, they need to like be like Jesus. They need to be the ultimate servant. And they need to, all this, that, and the other. And then what's happening is I think a lot of single people are looking around and being like, well, I don't see anybody that's like the standards that I want to have. And I am for high standards. But we have to remember we are all growing. We
Yeah.
are all, and if you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s, you are still very much early on in your growth process. And so it's less important to find the perfect person that meets all the criteria as it is to find the person who is obviously has enough of a growth mindset that they can receive feedback and criticism and are humble enough that they want to change. They actually do want to change. So I think that can be a little more helpful when you're looking for a spouse, if you look for that, than just, I'm looking for this perfect guy that meets these like 20
good.
criteria.
That's good.
Is he humble? Can he learn? Can he learn? Can she learn? Can she grow? Does she receive?
Do they want to grow?
Do they want to grow? And the way you receive feedback says a lot about your mindset, about being willing to be wrong, being willing to grow, being willing to change.
That's good.
All right, number 5. Red flag. If they don't take care of their stuff, and stuff includes money, stuff includes their car, their house, it's so interesting. Caveat. There are different levels of cleanliness, and there are different preferences.
Are there?
For organization level
Yes.
and what constitutes as care. So let me just, the important thing there would be find somebody that you're like-minded with. If y'all want to both be slobs together. But
She said
maybe
it.
if you're a neat freak, don't
Yeah.
marry a slob. If you're a slob, you might not want to marry a neat freak. You can. It's just going to create a lot of tension. So just know that going into it. So maybe just look for somebody that's similar to you. But I do think that there's something a little bit deeper about the way they view things that have been put in their care. I think the way that we care for things, money, material possessions, the people in our lives, says a lot about how we value life, our respect and care for the things that have been given to us, our level of responsibility that we're willing to take over things, the level of discipline that we're willing to exert.
Yeah.
I think just taking a look, I know the messy car can be cute, and I'm not saying that somebody with a messy car is not marryable. Every mom driving a minivan right now is like, ugh. But
Arguably not their fault.
Not their
Blame
fault.
the kids.
Not their fault. But just it's something worth paying attention to. If they don't take care of the things in their possession, including their own body, I would argue, then there's a little bit of a disconnect when it comes to discipline, to respect, to valuing the things around you. In my humble opinion.
Yeah, that's not gonna be super popular
I don't
to
think
take
it
right
is.
there. But I mean,
sorry.
it's again, you these are just red flags. We think
Yeah.
you still get to choose like which red flags are like really like that's a deal breaker. Which ones should mean we need to have a conversation, and which ones like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm okay with this, but like I'm hopeful that we can grow in this area or they can grow in this area.
It's a good point. Like red flags, none of these things are deal breakers. All of these things should at least necessitate, if the red flag is present, it just necessitates paying a little more attention. What's really happening here? Is there anything beneath that? Is it pervasive?
Yeah.
That's the conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah, just we don't want to have like don't look, don't hear like just-
it's so cute. His house is a complete disastrous mess.
Yeah, and just a side point here, like you married couples know this, especially if you've had kids. If they are struggling in some of these areas now when there's no pressure of being married or having kids and all the lack of sleep and the challenges that come that way, like when you're single or flexible, like you in theory have the most opportunity to like be high growth mindset, like take care of your stuff. Like it only gets harder for a season in those early years. So don't imagine it's going to be like ramp up from here. Like it's probably going to, anything's possible, but it's just something to look out for.
Hey, I hope that you're loving this episode. But listen, what we really want to do is save you from one more boring night of tech gather time spent scrolling your phone side by side. We have a better idea, okay? We've created 5 absolutely foolproof conversation prompts to help you connect with your spouse today.
Yeah, these are like literally fill in the blank easy. Simple questions, nothing heavy, nothing too serious. These are light and fun to do exactly what they say to help you connect. So to get these free conversation prompts, just go to familygoalspodcast.com/connect. They're free, they're fun, use them today. Now, back to the episode.
Okay, we'll move on. Number 6 is red flag, critical language. If they speak down to you, if they speak down to other people, if they, the lack of words, like if they ignore a person that's right in front of them, like a cashier at the grocery store who's like, hey, how are you doing? And they're just on their phone, like they don't even acknowledge them as a human. That's a lack of words, but it's also speaking like volumes. So how they speak to you.
How they speak to the person that waits the table on your date night.
Yep. Like all of that. Like in the Bible, it talks about like, Jesus said it's not what you put in your mouth that defiles you, or maybe it's Paul who says that it's like what comes out of your mouth, right? Because it's what comes out of your heart. So whatever you say is a product of what's actually in your heart. So your words, you might misspeak or you might say something dramatic, but it's coming from somewhere. When, like the joke is, right, when people say, I don't know where that came from. You know
it came from your heart.
exactly where it came from. It came from your heart. Like, because that's
Your core self.
That's your core self in this moment. And we all are work in progress. So
Yeah.
like, again, this is not judgmental, but these are just like, again, you get to choose who you're marrying. So like pay attention to the red flags. What they say, it just is a trail worth like pursuing. Like, hey, where's that coming from? Is she always like that? Does he always treat people like that? He seems to love me, but he always says this to me.
Yeah, he's always picking on me or critical
making
of
fun
what I'm
of-
doing. Yeah.
Yeah, or like, it's just like, even in a playful way, language hurts no matter how you dress it up, right? It can be playful and funny and flirtatious, but it can still hurt and it's still the same
And
words.
it's a sign of, again, like so many of these come down to respect.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that has benefited us the most is our high level of respect for each other. So a lot of these things are really just at the end of the day, they're indicators of the respect level that they have for you. And for those of you that grew up in a home where you were spoken down to and you had a very critical parent, it may be harder for you to see this red flag because tragically, you're used to it. You've come to expect it. It doesn't even seem abnormal to you. And so if that's you listening to this, just hear me say, it is not okay for someone to speak down to you, to speak critically in a harmful, harsh way, to make fun of you. That stuff's not okay. And there's really no room for that in a marriage, especially in a happy, joyful, healthy marriage. Yeah. So if that was your upbringing, just know that that is not okay in the spouse that you're looking for. It's not okay.
Good one. All right, take us number 7.
Okay, number 7. We're just going to drop this one and run, okay? Number 7 is that they want the benefits of marriage without the commitment of marriage. I'm not going to elaborate there. I'm just going to put that out there, and we're going to back away to number 8.
Do you think they get it?
I hope you get it, guys.
And like
the benefits of marriage without the commitment of marriage.
People view marriage differently these days. There's not,
for sure.
And unfortunately, it's because of that. It's because of that cheapening of the marriage bond and relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to speak to. I can only speak for myself as a man. I think a lot of men benefit from the benefits of marriage outside of marriage, and are happy with it without committing. And so I see you see the story of a lot of women who have been dating a man for a long time or engaged to a man for a long time.
He never
proposes. And you wonder why, because he's getting all the benefits of marriage.
Yeah.
Financial, physical, relational status, whatever. Emotional. Without needing to commit. There's always a back door open, and that's just a giant red flag.
Well, not to mention the statistic, I'm going to get it wrong, but it's like you're like 30% more likely to divorce if you lived together. Cohabitating before marriage.
I think it's higher.
I think it's higher now. So you're literally just shortcutting your marriage before it's even started. You're going to have a higher chance of divorce just because you
just
decide
because
to live like you're
something
married.
is old-fashioned doesn't mean it's wrong. Just because something is old-fashioned doesn't mean it won't benefit you. So I think by old-fashioned, I mean traditional marriage, the way it's been run for thousands of years and as outlined in the Bible has its benefits. And so it's a red flag. You could disagree, and like that's totally fine. But
the statistics are not in your
disagree
favor.
with you. So there's the data.
Yeah, we're just talking about Anyway, we'll move on.
Yeah,
we'll
number 8.
Okay.
Number 8 red flag is if the person doesn't serve other people, if the person isn't even aware
of other
people. And so service is to me an indicator of humility, right? Yeah. So humility, the way I say it is humility is the key that unlocks every door. If you read the book of Proverbs, you'll see like multiple places where humility is like the beginning of all these promises. So I think humility in general, it helps you in business, it helps you in life, but it's true in marriage. So if you don't see them serving someone, or they're not like volunteering, or they're not willing to like hold the door for somebody.
Aware of the needs of others and attempting to help meet the needs of others.
Because if they're not, that doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just means they're only seeing themselves, which is very natural. That's the default of the human heart. And if that's the case, it's like, man, there's going to be a lot of uphill work to do for them to even be aware that the other people, including yourself, potentially future children, is not a deal breaker. It's just like this person needs some work in this area. So it's just a red flag.
And practical implications is there's just going to be seasons of marriage that you go through where you're going to need to selflessly serve each other. Arguably, you're always needing to selflessly serve each other, but I'm specifically thinking of like me right after I had the baby. You are kind of pulling double duty because you're trying to care for me physically, emotionally, mentally, with the new baby, with the transition. If the other person is ill, if the other person, is going through a lot emotionally, there are just going to be times where extra service of one another is going to be needed. And we want the type of person that is aware of that and that's a part of who they are, baked into their character, because it's not going to magically appear later. When times get tough.
Yeah, exactly. Well, think about like a sports team or a military unit. Like if everyone on the football team or in the military unit was like selfish and wasn't even aware of the other people, like they'd get crushed.
Yeah.
There's just no way. Like John Gordon talks about it in the One Truth, oneness versus separateness, and like all the parallels of like when you're separate, like you're just easy to destroy.
Mm-hmm.
When you're united, like one, like you're undefeated. Like basketball teams, football teams, so it's the ultimate team. And I know like that gets thrown around a lot in marriage, but like if that person is like literally just unaware of other people, it's really going to be hard to have a strong marriage.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be like two separate people floating around your house. You're like, hello, I need help. And they're like, what? Who are you?
Yep.
So just a red flag.
Red flag. Okay, last red flag. This one just drives me freaking bonkers. Red flag number 9. They can't or don't hold down a job. We've seen this a lot over the years. Exhibit A, the guy who keeps just going back to school instead of getting a real job.
He's hiding, ladies. He's hiding in school. His multiple degrees is like he's afraid of the real world.
Exhibit B, the girl who's like refuses to get the job that isn't the perfect, fulfilling job. She won't just go work to pay the bills. She's waiting for the perfect job. It has to be perfectly aligned in her skill set. It has to perfectly fulfill her. And so she's just unwilling to work until she finds that, which I feel like describes a lot of young people, unfortunately.
Look how you said young people as if
We're not young people
babe,
anymore.
You can't say young people.
But also included in this would be the person that just something keeps continuing to come up every time they get a job, right?
Yeah.
At this place, it was this. At this place, it was this. At this place, it was that crazy boss. At this place, and the common denominator is them.
Yeah.
So if they either cannot seem to hold a job or do not choose to hold a job, it is a red flag, people. Ladies, I'm talking to you.
Hey, man.
I feel like it's usually the women that are responsible and getting the career and,
Well, you know.
they're academically striving. Then they're going after the
That's a
career.
generalization, but sure. No, you're right. You're right. I mean, right, at the end of the day, summing all these up, like some of these are funny, some of these are serious.
We probably could have listed 20
Oh my
more.
gosh,
It's not
we
that
have-
these are the top.
No, gosh, we had
Top
to just like
nine.
stop. Like
We just wanted to rant about a few of these things, really.
I think the big point, and we made it at the beginning, is like you get to choose your spouse. And so, man, do your due diligence. Like, don't be a perfectionist.
Right. Mm-hmm.
No one is 100%. Like at best, you're going to get 80% of your dream list, right? Because there's no one person that's 100% of your dream list.
Except you, baby.
Oh, look at how she did that. That was great. Thank you. Thank you, baby. But like outside of that, be picky and like open your eyes, not to just toss somebody out, but this is the time to have the conversations.
Yeah, that's what I was
Before you put the
gonna
ring
say.
on it, now is the time to be like, hey, let's talk about your employment history. Let's talk about your crap show of a car inside, like with the milkshakes everywhere. Let's talk about the way you yell at your mom, like Will Ferrell, in Wedding Crashers. Mom, meatloaf. Like, let's have those conversations now, because, like, hey, like she gave a good example of me. Like, I was a giant piece of work when she met me because I was 19 when she met me. Imagine 19-year-old Graham who thinks he's going to be a rock star and thinks he's the you-know-what. And she somehow liked me, but she had the guts to say, hey, I like you. And we seem like we're going somewhere with this, but you curse like a sailor.
We just need to talk about a few things.
You don't really go to church really consistently. Like, you say you're a Christian. What's the deal with that? And what do you think about X, Y, and Z? And she has some really challenging questions or things. And like, we'll wrap up with this. I'll let you speak into it as well. But from my perspective, her challenging of me made me respect her more.
Mm-hmm.
And because I liked her a lot and really valued what she thought of me, it made me like self-evaluate.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Okay, if she sees that in me and I respect her, maybe there's something to this. If it's just my buddies like, bro, I'll be like, whatever. But I respect her. So I kind of rose to the challenge in the sense that I was willing to like, okay, I'll adjust my life because like it matters to her. And it probably is a good idea for me. But if the person doesn't rise to that or doesn't want to engage in the conversation, it's like, whatever, this is me. Like, I'm doing me. Then you've kind of just at least proven the point that you took the red flag seriously, had the conversation. because you got to give people a chance to adjust, and then you get to decide what to do with it after that.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, healthy marriage is born out of difficult conversation. The
Yeah.
only way you're going to have an ongoing healthy marriage at year 5, year 10, year 15, year 20, year 25, year 40 is if you master the art of having these types of difficult, uncomfortable conversations. If they can't handle these uncomfortable conversations when they're dating, they are not likely going to be able to handle these conversations when the romance has died and you're in it and you're sleepless and you have
Kid
financial
barf all
stress.
over you. Yeah,
You know, so if nothing else,
it's good.
use these as opportunities to like, all right, let's see how this goes. Let's talk about this. This is a little red flag. Like, how does this conversation go when I bring this up? And do I receive it when these things are brought to my attention as well? Because the flip side of this is be the person. Be the person that's not the red flag. So if any of these red flags describe you, then maybe as a single or as a married person, just take a moment of self-reflection and say, like, is there an area I can grow for the benefit of myself personally and the benefit of our marriage?
Mic drop. I love it. What are you thankful for today?
Oh, I'm grateful that I got all my work done in the last 3 days so that we could go out of town tomorrow.
Yes.
It's been a lot of work. I'm grateful that I feel like I landed the plane enough to leave tomorrow. So
You did it.
I did it.
She's been gone a lot, y'all.
I have.
Missed a lot of weekends. It's tough. Short work weeks is tough.
Yeah. What about you? What are you grateful for?
I had an amazing mastermind weekend this last weekend where I had 5 guys come in from 3 different countries and like just we mastermind and workshop their businesses. And it was so cool. I hosted them here in Tampa and I'm just grateful that they came, that they trusted in me. And then we just had powerful conversations and just it's cool to see like their transformation and their takeaways. So grateful for that.
Super cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hope this was helpful. If it is, pass it along to somebody else. Slide it in their DMs, passive aggressively. Send it to someone. Let's lock down a good spouse, y'all. Let's do it for real. See you next time.